In the annals of medical history, a stark and uncompromising voice emerged from the year 1874. A voice that cuts through the noise of modern complacency like a scalpel. This was the voice of Dr. Seaborn Freeman Salter, a physician whose seminal work, Nervous Vitality, dared to confront a subject that modern science and esteemed organizations often approach with a conspiratorial silence. We live in an era where we are constantly told that lustfulness, fleeting pleasures, and solitary gratification are normal, even celebrated acts of self-discovery. Yet the remedies for the subsequent ailments that arise from these behaviors come with a heavy price tag: your labor, your freedom, and your very vitality. Dr. Salter's teachings peel back the layers of this manufactured normalcy to reveal a devastating truth. A truth born not of idle speculation, but of real-life experiences gleaned from a distinguished medical career spanning decades. This is not about judgment. It is about confronting the concealed realities that whisper behind the convenient narratives of modern health. For too long, humanity has buried its head in the sand, opting for misplaced modesty over uncomfortable truths. This collective avoidance, this societal shadow work left undone, has allowed a silent epidemic to flourish. It claims lives, extinguishes dreams, and stifles innovative ideas before they can ever come to fruition. Dr. Salter's insights compel us to awaken, to embark on an enlightening journey guided by the illuminating pages of Nervous Vitality, exploring the profound importance of semen retention and the poisonous effects of masturbation. Masturbation, as Dr. Salter defines it, relates to the artificial indulgence of sexual desire, achieved through the manipulation of the male reproductive organs. This solitary act, often shrouded in secrecy and shame, finds its earliest documented instance in the biblical account of Onan in Genesis chapter 38, verses 9 and 10, which subsequently gave rise to the medical term onanism. The scripture states, "And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him also." While modern interpreters often dismiss this as mere religious allegory, Dr. Salter argues that this ancient text underscores a profound historical, biological, and spiritual condemnation. It highlights a primal understanding of the misuse of vital energy. God, in his wisdom, or nature, in its unforgiving laws, punished Onan for this transgression. The consequences of this curse, Dr. Salter asserts, continue to affect individuals to this day. However, they do not manifest as divine wrath in the biblical sense of immediate execution, but rather as a systematic decay of physical and mental faculties. The vice, whether referred to as onanism, self-pollution, the solitary vice, or under various other names, fundamentally involves similar means of gratification: the waste of the seed without purpose. Emission of sexual fluid, Dr. Salter stresses, is unattainable in either sex without artificial stimulation or a mental fixation on amorous thoughts. From the perspective of dark truth therapy, this act represents a fundamental failure to integrate the shadow. When a man succumbs to this solitary vice, he is not merely seeking pleasure, he is engaging in a form of self-cannibalism, consuming his own potential to feed a fleeting dopamine rush. He is avoiding the inner work required to transmute that energy into something tangible. The refusal to confront this dark truth, to acknowledge this buried, destructive habit, is the first step on a path of self-deception and illness. It is a path where the individual actively disconnects from his authentic power, allowing the shadow self to govern his decisions through addiction and secrecy.
To understand why this waste is so catastrophic, one must understand the biological mechanism of human vitality. Natural intercourse, Dr. Salter elucidates, represents a form of magnetism that yields an electrical discharge upon the release of semen. This intricate biological process, combined with what was known in the 19th century as animal electricity, serves to quell the passions within the genitalia naturally and healthily. The male organ, having fulfilled its natural purpose in the union with the female, loses its electrical charge and the desire subsides, leaving a sense of calm and completion. This electrical charge is more than a mere physiological phenomenon. It is a profound representation of masculine energy. It is the spark of life, the driving force of will, creativity, and dominance in the physical world. The loss of this vital energy, when one succumbs to artificial gratification or relapses on a journey of semen retention, is a direct detriment to our inherent masculine vitality. It depletes the very essence that fuels drive, creativity, and presence. It is crucial to recognize, as Dr. Salter adamantly states, that God was aware, as are those who engage in self-abuse, that the desire for marriage is significantly diminished, perhaps even to the point of revulsion, as a direct result of this practice. This stark contrast is evident when observing those who remain uncorrupted by this vice, where the natural attraction between the sexes flourishes unabated. The sexes are, by their very nature, attracted to one another, like magnets. Their greatest joy is experienced when they come together in a state of sexual love, a union that transcends mere physical sensation to encompass a deep electrical and spiritual connection. A woman, in this profound sense, can never be truly satisfied by a man who lacks the ability to electrify her through the emission of semen within the context of natural union. Conversely, a man cannot find true fulfillment through masturbation or sexual interaction without achieving an electric discharge of semen in its intended context. When he wastes this energy in solitude, he circuit shorts his own system. He becomes a battery that is constantly draining itself, but never recharging through the polarity of the feminine. This leads to a profound masculinity crisis. When God has instilled in men and women a yearning for one another, it should come as no surprise that in cases where marriage is postponed or natural inclinations are perverted, we witness a surge in societal ills, rape, prostitution, clandestine liaisons among the young, and the pervasive shadow of masturbation. Just as one would not command a hurricane to subdue its rage before it has exhausted its fury, one should not expect the passion of sexual desire to remain silent while it is unfulfilled and constantly provoked to unnatural activity. This is precisely why, when we are practicing semen retention, it is profoundly important to transmute this powerful electrical energy. Failure to do so would lead to severe discomfort and an unnatural urge which corrupts the mind, pushing it toward unhealthy outlets
and frivolous pleasures. The core truth here, deeply aligned with the principles of dark truth therapy, is that the purpose of sexual intimacy is not inherently wrong. It is sacred, essential for procreation, and vital for deep connection in a committed relationship. What is fundamentally detrimental is the misuse and abuse of this powerful energy through acts like masturbation, indiscriminate sexual encounters, infidelity, and excessive, transient sexual indulgence. These acts are not merely moral failures, they are profound wastes of vital masculine energy. They create wounds in the male psyche, a form of toxic love turned inward, that need urgent attention and deep shadow work to heal. Without this transmutation, the man remains a slave to his impulses, disconnected from his higher purpose.
The consequences of this energy leakage are not abstract. They are visibly written on the body and the mind. None of the following symptoms, Dr. Salter emphatically states, are exaggerated. They are simply manifestations of the devastating effects he observed repeatedly in his extensive medical practice. Masturbation, he warned, is a burgeoning issue, and silence, coupled with misguided modesty, will never eliminate it. The effects of masturbation on both sexes are manifold, and the practice has various profoundly detrimental consequences. It systematically depletes the body's vitality, weakening the entire system from its core. It impairs the proper functioning of the reproductive organs, disrupting their natural rhythm and capacity. It deranges the intricate processes of digestion and circulation, leading to a cascade of internal imbalances. Crucially, it wreaks havoc on the brain and nervous system, fostering mental depravity of diverse kinds, a true corruption of the mind. Furthermore, it directly hampers procreation in certain cases, and results in feeble and frail offspring in others, perpetuating a cycle of weakness. Beyond the physiological, it diminishes a woman's esteem in the eyes of a man, and equally a man's esteem in the eyes of a woman, eroding the very foundation of respectful and meaningful relationships. In essence, it is a scourge, both morally and physically, a silent destroyer of self and society. The practice of masturbation is stubbornly clung to by many, due to the fleeting and transient animal pleasure it provides. However, it is essential to remember that the deceptive road to pleasure in this context is, in truth, the perilous road to insanity, disease, and ultimately death. Those who persist on this enticing yet destructive path without fleeing its temptations will bear the heavy weight of retribution. This isn't sensationalism, but a stark medical warning. Masturbation as a cause of insanity deserves particular attention, Dr. Salter asserts. Nearly 1/7 of all cases of insanity, a fact that may seem astonishing, but is undeniably true, based on the asylum records of the 19th century, can be traced back to this pervasive practice. The habit is often freely admitted, yet vigorously opposed by those afflicted. In males, the habit is typically detectable through a range of discernible physical signs: a slouching posture, averted gaze, clammy hands, and a general lack of vigor. In females, however, it is not as readily apparent, often camouflaged by societal expectations and internal struggles. Yet, a shy, downcast countenance, combined with an enervated appearance, relaxed tissues, and engorged veins can arouse grave suspicions of masturbation in some females. This behavior can manifest paradoxically. In some, it results in the development of adipose tissue and a seductive demeanor, while in others, it leads to extreme debility and emaciation, a draining of life force. Self-indulgence of this nature debilitates both the body and the mind, rendering individuals increasingly incapable of handling any form of excitement or challenge. Consciously aware of the sin and perceived shame associated with masturbation, their thoughts are often redirected towards religious matters as a coping mechanism, seeking solace or absolution. Under the resulting intense emotional strain, reason eventually gives way, culminating in mental derangement. Dr. Salter firmly distinguishes, it is not religious fervor itself, but the underlying habit of masturbation, coupled with its profound psychological burden, that leads to insanity. In the same compromised condition, any other overwhelming form of excitement or stress could also trigger mental derangement. From the perspective of dark truth therapy, this relentless pursuit of superficial pleasure at the cost of one's vitality demonstrates a severe lack of emotional discipline and a profound disconnect from self-awareness. It is a tragic manifestation of the shadow self taking the reins. The individual actively sabotages their well-being, paving the way for mental and physical breakdown, rather than embracing masculine healing. This destructive pattern, rooted in chasing fleeting gratification, underscores a deep masculinity crisis. It prevents men from engaging in meaningful inner work to transform their lives. By transgressing against their own bodies, they forfeit the reward of health, happiness, and a ripe old age, instead choosing a path of slow, agonizing decay.
The corrosive effects of masturbation often infiltrate the sanctity of sleep, giving rise to tormenting dreams and seminal emissions. Dr. Salter notes that one such dream and emission takes a more considerable toll on the body than several natural emissions. In nearly every case where self-abuse has been practiced to a significant extent, the brain becomes afflicted with an abnormal passion. The sexual organs become highly excitable, and the overall physical vitality deteriorates. Consequently, lascivious dreams lead to emissions of semen, a draining event for the already compromised system. This phenomenon, while occasionally happening to individuals just starting the practice of semen retention, signals a deeper underlying issue when persistent. Nocturnal emissions may also occur in individuals who have never engaged in self-abuse, but this usually happens when the mind has been preoccupied with amorous thoughts during waking hours. Initially, these emissions may occur at long intervals, such as once a month or less. However, if the habit of self-abuse persists, the frequency can alarmingly increase to once a week or even more frequent occurrences, further depleting the body's vital reserves. Yet, even persons who are entirely chaste and have never practiced self-abuse are susceptible to voluptuous dreams, a phenomenon that is not limited to a particular gender. In a state of perfect health, devoid of excesses or self-abuse, these infrequent dreams serve as a kind of safety valve, and do little harm, especially for individuals who lead healthy lifestyles and do not engage in strenuous labor. To help those who experience such infrequent, normal emissions, mental engagement, regular physical activity, occasional saltwater baths, and the avoidance of sexual thoughts are usually sufficient. It is important to clarify that these recommendations apply specifically to those who experience such emissions at extended, normal intervals. When such emissions become nearly nightly occurrences, they require more substantial and immediate treatment. In most cases, dreams can be controlled by actively avoiding any form of sexual excitement, diverting the mind from such thoughts, and consciously focusing on something of a different, non-sexual nature. The key concept here, profoundly aligned with dark truth therapy and Jungian thought, is that our mental state during sleep mirrors our thoughts when we are awake. The subconscious mind does not invent. It regurgitates what the conscious mind feeds it. Consequently, if our thoughts are pure and disciplined while awake, they will seldom turn impure while sleeping. A pure mind, therefore, is a semen retention practitioner's best friend, a testament to emotional discipline and self-awareness.
However, it is crucial to note that nocturnal emissions are debilitating and highly harmful unless they occur infrequently. For those engaged in self-abuse, they represent only the beginning of a more severe complication and should serve as a dire warning of the consequences if the habit persists. At this critical stage, it is essential to seek proper treatment promptly, as failure to do so can lead to involuntary seminal emissions, diurnal losses. These uncontrollable discharges can occur at any time, whether awake or asleep, and their effects are far more distressing and debilitating than those of mere nocturnal emissions. A severely weakened nervous system, often the direct result of chronic self-abuse, can culminate in tragic conditions such as consumption, profound insanity, or a complete loss of all sexual feeling, often with these consequences occurring in horrifying combination. Impotency or sterility can also result from the habit or the birth of weak, feeble-minded offspring, perpetuating the cycle of debility. In this advanced stage, there is almost a constant dribbling of semen, and the slightest stimulus, be it a woman's touch, the sight of her neck, a seductive glance, an amorous thought, a lewd description, can lead to an involuntary loss of semen. Sexual intercourse, in its authentic, pleasurable form, is virtually impossible in this condition. The individual cannot maintain control of their emissions long enough to engage in penetrative intercourse, and when semen is released, there is no pleasure whatsoever. Nonetheless, driven by an insatiable, destructive craving, and addiction to the very poison killing him, he may still resort to masturbation in a desperate, futile attempt to satisfy what has become a corrupted, zombie-like desire. The relentless drain on one's vital energy through masturbation
Dr. Salter asserts, is not merely a moral or psychological failing. It is a direct precursor to a host of grave physical ailments, laying bare the profound interconnectedness of body and mind. The nervous vitality, or nerve force, that keeps the body functioning is the same energy expelled during these acts, and when the reservoir runs dry, the defenses crumble. Tuberculosis, known in Dr. Salter's time as consumption, is the result of masturbation and sexual excesses in thousands of cases. It is essentially a disease engendered by a low state of nervous vitality, by which the blood is impoverished and divested of the red principle. Tubercle deposits form in the lungs because of this systemic depression and lack of power to take up and supply nutriment to the blood and nervous system. Tubercle formations are never found where the blood and nervous system are in a healthy condition, a state impossible for those who, as masturbators, keep up a continual drain upon this vital principle. Consumptive victims soon occupy their last heritage on earth, the grave, and are often mourned as the victims of cold, overwork, and so on, when they are, in fact, self-murderers. This harsh reality underscores the self-destructive nature of unchecked indulgence, a form of toxic love that turns inward to destroy the host. Cancer, too, is often the result of masturbation. There can be no doubt, Dr. Salter states. I have, in an extensive practice and treatment of this disease, met with several well-authenticated cases produced from this practice, he writes. These were cases of cancer on the penis produced by friction of the parts, keeping up a constant irritation, and at the same time the blood, impoverished by the drain upon the system, was more subject to those infiltrations or cell growths. This is also affected through the nervous systems. This powerful assertion connects localized mechanical irritation with systemic depletion, emphasizing how a localized vice can manifest as a deadly systemic disease. Moving to the neurological realm, Dr. Salter confidently asserts that in approximately 90% of epilepsy cases, their origin can be traced back to masturbation. He dedicated himself to the specialized treatment of this affliction and consistently achieved success when patients abstained from the habit. However, he tragically recounts 2 cases where individuals now reside in a mental institution solely due to their inability to break free from this practice. Despite administering the most potent remedies to curb their sexual desires and warning them of the impending peril, it was, unfortunately, too late, and they now face a wretched demise.
Epilepsy, as universally acknowledged, manifests as a spasm stemming from an underlying morbid disruption within the nerve centers, encompassing both the brain and the spinal column. In Dr. Salter's view, a particular lesion occurs involving the membrane enclosing the spinal cord, typically situated just below the juncture of the brain and spinal cord, and epilepsy ensues as a result of this lesion. The sole effective means of treatment involves eliminating the provoking factor, masturbation. Further, palpitation of the heart, a sinking sensation, and frequent fainting often result from masturbation. The principles are the same. By weakening the nerve or controlling force, you leave the system without defense against sudden shocks, and hence we observe heart derangements. Dyspepsia, or indigestion, is a very common effect of masturbation and sexual excesses, acting upon the same principle. The nerve force is lowered, the power cut off from the vagus nerve, and we are obliged to have an impaired condition of the functions of digestion. It requires no elaborate argument to convince the reader of this direct connection. Shortness of breath is also the result of this practice, the nerves controlling the mechanical part of respiration being too weak to perform their functions. Constipation is another consequence of masturbation, and in turn often becomes an exciting cause of involuntary emissions. The hardened and impacted feces create a species of irritation that, being reflected to the genital organs, triggers emissions. Frequently, we meet with an irritable condition of the kidney and bladder, prostate gland, and urethra, all from the effects of the miserable habit. They are the direct result of local irritation and can only be overcome by the removal of the cause.
In summary, the profound observations of Dr. Seaborn Freeman Salter from 1874 reveal a chilling truth that echoes into our modern age. Persistent masturbation and other forms of sexual excess can result in severe, life-altering consequences, such as consumption, cancer, epilepsy, and a myriad of other debilitating health issues. This information, though potentially controversial to those clinging to modern narratives of sexual liberation without responsibility, is provided in the deepest interest of humanity. It is paramount that we understand the insidious symptoms and signs of those engaged in this practice, not to condemn, but to understand and intervene. More importantly, it is our collective responsibility to educate our youth about its profound dangers and to enlighten them with the critical importance of practicing semen retention and embracing a holistic approach to their masculine energy. Let it be unmistakably clear: the purpose of sexual connection is not inherently wrong. Quite the contrary, it is sacred and foundational for procreation, deep intimacy, and the spiritual union between a man and a woman within the bounds of a committed relationship. The error lies not in the act of sex, but in the perversion of it. What is profoundly detrimental, what we at Dark Truth Therapy highlight as a critical dark truth, are the deviations from this authentic purpose, acts such as masturbation, indiscriminate sexual encounters, infidelity, and any form of excessive or superficial sexual indulgence. These are not merely fleeting pleasures, but profound wastes of vital masculine energy. They lead to destructive physical and psychological impacts, draining the very electrical charge that makes a man a man. They manifest as a severe masculinity crisis, creating wounds in the male psyche that prevent genuine growth and fulfillment.
It is time for men to confront what they have buried in the dark. It is time to stop chasing the light of temporary gratification and instead face the shadows of your own destructive habits. This journey of masculine healing requires honest shadow work to dismantle the toxic love for self-sabotage and overcome the rejection trauma that often manifests as self-neglect. You must embrace emotional discipline and cultivate self-awareness to reclaim your inherent masculine energy and move beyond the ego death born of unexamined behaviors. Start your inner work today. Begin unmasking the self and heal the wounded man within. You are not broken. You are simply disconnected from your power source. If this message resonates, if you feel the stirring of truth within you, join us at Dark Truth Therapy. Like this video, share it with those who need to hear these vital truths, and subscribe to our channel for more insights into male psychology, love addiction, rejection, and the shadow self, guided by Jungian thought. This is where men begin to heal, not by chasing the light, but by confronting what they buried in the dark.